Ever since Hurricane Maria slammed into Vieques, the tiny U.S. island off the coast of Puerto Rico on September 20th, 2017, the over 9,000 residents have been isolated from the world, with no running water or electricity. It is unimaginable what it must be like to live in the rubble of your former house, have no access to money, or know where your next meal is coming from, not to be able to take a shower or use the bathroom, to not be able to turn on a fan in the heat, have any sense of what is happening in the community, or any idea when things might improve, not to mention any prospect of when or if you can return to work. Other than the U.S. Army and the island-based charities Vieques, Love, and Carefi, very few have stepped up to provide relief. Today I will speak with Vieques resident Dave Young, who will describe what it was like when he returned home not long after the hurricane, and how we can help. Welcome to the special edition of Spiritually Speaking. Thank you so much, Dave, for joining us today, and it's been a pleasure to meet you and to get to know you a little bit, and I know we're related in a crazy kind of way. You spoke at our synagogue a couple of weeks ago very, very powerfully, so I really wanted to do this episode to bring home to everybody exactly what's happening in Vieques and how we can help. So first of all, could you explain a little bit about exactly where Vieques is for those who may not know?
Off of Puerto Rico at the far eastern end, Vieques is about 7 miles off the coast, the nearest point. And that would touch more or less the western end of Vieques. Vieques runs very similar to Martha's Vineyard in size. It's 21 by 4 miles long.
Could you tell us a little bit about what life is normally like in Vieques and maybe what the population is, who lives there?
Sure. Vieques has a population of 9,400. Out of the 9,400, there's approximately, and the figure is unknown today, but between 500 and no more than 1,000 North Americanos that have relocated, that have retired there. Vieques is a mystical island. It's based on tourism. Every nickel that comes into that island, one way or another, is supporting the island. But there's an effect on all that go to Vieques. Military control took over Vieques approximately 75 years ago. They were there for 60 years. They took over 2/3 of the island, the both ends of the island, so that they could do their practices. But what happened on this particular island, it had very little exposure to what's happening in society or on Puerto Rico or Maine, U.S. And so you actually step back into history. Such a thing as a traffic light has not been invented yet. People still ride horses.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And the most dangerous thing on the island at night is to run into a wild horse.
Do you have like a street address, or are people living in the mountains, or?
The streets haven't even been named yet, except for Isabella, which is a small downtown, and a few isolated places have street names. If you live there, you'll go by, well, you know where the cows are? And there's a couple of plastic cows on somebody's yard. Been there for years. Well, you turn at the cows. And where the black dog is asleep, on the left-hand side, you'll see a dog sleeping. You take a right there. People are extremely loving. Once my daughter visited me, my middle daughter came to visit. I live up on a hillside, and you go through the local neighborhood because I rent from locals. And by the time we got to the house, she asked me, she says, "What are you, mayor?" And the reason she used that expression was because when you're going down the street, people are waving. People are yelling out, "Hola, amigo!" You ever hear of that TV show that used to be around, Cheers?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay.
The theme song in Cheers was, "Everybody knows your name." And it's impossible if you're a North American, if you live there, to go to any store, downtown, wherever you're going, without stopping and have a conversation with a friend.
How did Hurricane Maria impact the island?
Most or a large percentage of the wooden houses are no longer there. They were blown down. Even some of the concrete houses, windows were blown right in. Not the glass breaking, the whole frame was just pushed right in. So the devastation is, it's wild. I mean, for telephone poles, 1 out of 3 are down. For wires on the ground, 90%. I got onto the island, it was late in the afternoon. I had, I think, 3 bags with me full of survival gear. And a pickup truck went by, and this again shows like the people. There was 3 children in the pickup truck, a little tiny pickup truck in the back. There was a father and mother and another child in the middle. And so I said, how about a ride? I mean, you just climb in the back of a pickup truck with your bags. I get up to the house, and the house is, the porch is blown off, the porch hit the roof, part of the roof's blown off. The storm did into the house. You got all your clothes on the floor, you swish them out the door because it was still flooded. Clothes and everything else that blew off the walls. It's just the debris, which is formerly your stuff. It's getting dark, and now you say to yourself, where do I go? You can't call anybody. I just arrived, so I don't know what condition anybody's in. And I'm not going to start walking around the mountainsides.
In the dark.
In the dark. It continuously rained every day in Vieques. Okay? So the house kept getting flooded. So I gave up on sweeping out the water. It was like, well, just let it build up enough. There's a slight slope. Let it run out the door. I set up a cot by the refrigerator. Okay? And so I'm sleeping on a cot. There is no lights except for little lanterns I brought in. Okay, and you put your boots right by the cot because the room is flooded. So when you get up, you don't want to stand in the water. Okay, but a real issue that is currently being addressed by some people I know or looking into it is the rats, because the rats in the jungle, when their holes get flooded, they go into the houses. Now, I'm talking about laying on a bed on this cot with a flashlight, hearing the rats around me, picking up the light and saying, oh yeah, that's a big rat. There's another rat. There was a lot of days where I didn't cook. I mean, I went with a suitcase of canned food, okay? I didn't have to cook because people would share, oh, here's what I have left, why don't you eat this? How were the people eating during the storm? Or better yet, how are the people eating today? The stores have been restocked. There is food that's not full stock, but there's food in there at the moment. Of course, you're back to, okay, who's got money? When the military arrived and they started handing out food, you would get a case of K-rations and you would get a case of water. What they've just done is they've gone out with 3,000-gallon bladders, water bladders, and put them in some key locations. And from 1 to 4 o'clock during the afternoons, you go down there and you're allowed two containers of 10 gallons. I was standing talking to somebody, one of my friends, because when I got there, that was my concern. That's my home. This is my family. And I was talking to somebody, and they said to me, oh, David, wait a minute. And the person walked away with a cane, crossed the road, and then I realized, and it wasn't until that moment that I realized it, it was like everybody, practically, is going into the jungle to go to the bathroom. Because you can't flush the toilet. So you have no bathrooms, you have no way to shower, you're collecting rainwater for those purposes, to wash your clothes. You suddenly learn, and I've learned this living there, it's like, you know, at one time I might have been too proud to wash, like, take a bucket of water and soap. I mean, I've done that there.
And what are the prospects of electricity coming back?
There is no electricity. That is the bottom of the list. I had a conversation with somebody this morning, maybe at the end of February, maybe March, but Vieques, the concentration population-wise is in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico gets the attention because it has a population of about 3.2 million. Vieques has 10,000 more or less, 9,400. So we are at the end of the chain.
What are people missing by not having electricity?
That means no gas, okay, or no diesel. That means the town's heavy equipment can't go around to clear the streets. And you can't drive your car, because when I went to get fuel, and I had a 7-hour line. Most of the population of the locals, over 50%, have food stamp cards. When there's no electricity, there's no electronic money. They cannot use their food stamp cards. I had the experience while I was there to get down to $20. And we go into a Kamado, and they did have rice. And we're looking at rice and a can of beans. Well, we looked at the can of beans. Well, that's $1.69. Gotta skip that, because all you have is what you have in your pocket. Without electricity, there are no fans. Without fans, there's basically, you're covered with mosquitoes. There is no sleep for a whole lot of people. That's a common thing. One of my good friends got evacuated off the island for this. He has a liver transplant. Okay, the liver transplant medicine has to be refrigerated. No electricity, there's no refrigeration. People are very desperate. And what happens with desperation sets in on that island is the crime goes up. It's no longer, has this house been broken into? Has it been 2 times? Has it been 3 times? Families that the houses were blown down with children living in their bathrooms, living on where the platform used to be. And the reason is because at night, if they leave that, they've gone around, there's no house left, they've gone around and collected the little bit of possessions they have left. They refuse to leave because it gets dark, that stuff's going to get stolen. Little groups get formed of friends or family or families. And I've been involved with this on other storms in the past. How important is that? My dear friend, we begged, leave your house, it's going to fall down. I was here through you go, this house is good. Well, that was 30 years ago, and she was 30 years younger. Okay, I'm going to cover my head with a mattress if it gets bad. Okay, well, as the bathroom roof blew off, okay, and then the whole front of the house blew away, she found, and then the side doors, which were wooden doors, blew off. She found herself in the storm. Okay, it got so heavy, the mattress, and of course she picked up some physical injuries. She couldn't lift it off of her when the storm came. She told me she was ripping off pieces of that mattress.
So that she could get out from under it?
She could get out from under it.
Oh my God.
But what saved the day is these little groups. The person that is a friend that's involved with this particular group had a motor scooter, thus getting around the trees. He literally pulled her out of the debris. It's a very close community down there.
Do people have cell phones, or how do they communicate with each other?
There's no cell phones.
Were there before the hurricane?
Yeah, you had cell phones, so you're totally cut off in the black. It's just, and that's the scariest. That was probably the scariest thing where I was, because you don't know what happened. In fact, I'm still getting texts, an email as of like a day or 2 ago, where somebody hasn't heard from their 85-year-old father. Can I reach out through some networks that I'm sort of involved with down there to find her father since the storm hit?
So I know you have a boat that you would take, it's a fishing boat that you would take tourists out?
Yeah, it's actually the sport fishermen, and we take people snorkeling fishing combinations out to other islands, BVIs, all that kind of stuff. The boat miraculously survived the hurricane because I ran it into mainland. The fleet in Vieques, I think there's 3 of us left. You got this disaster. You have things to fix. You don't have money to do it. But there's a lot worse thing that's going to come out of this. Every buck is generated by tourists coming in there. Okay? And so everybody's going to be affected. The guest house called me up, John the Baptist. He owns a house, rents it out, blah blah blah. Dave, what do you think? You think I could figure any rental spot? You think we'll have electricity? And we were talking maybe in April. The construction there is all house people that rent houses, property management, building a new house, fixing a house. Well, none of that's going to happen. And so the long-term effect is there is going to be no money.
You said that the military, thank God, has stepped in to help. Are there other homegrown organizations, or have other organizations come to the island?
The North Americanos here, one woman in particular, Kelly, she started an organization called Love Vieques. They pooled their money. They were the second airplane in there. They actually chartered out of Florida. We're sending planes out of Miami. And they bring 1,000 pounds of medical supplies, things of that nature, onto the island, and the real sick, getting them off the island. They were the ones, okay, how did you know if somebody lived or died down there? Okay, you have no communication. So they set up in the plaza, not Vieques Love, but there was a place where you would sign your name, so somebody could get a picture of that name list, proof of life list. They brought in 12 satellite phones. 6 of the satellite phones, they set up tables so that people could use 2-minute phone calls, proof of life calls. The other 6, they distributed to the municipality, because the municipalities, they weren't prepared for a hurricane of this nature. So there's no communication amongst themselves for repairs.
What is FEMA doing?
That's not what you think it is, okay? Okay, I've been personally affected. I personally applied to just, like, hoping to get enough to get a bed. I mean, just get a bed out of it, because I can't afford another bed, FEMA is going around, you apply for FEMA for relief if you're a renter, if your car got destroyed or stuff inside, okay? If you're a homeowner, you apply for FEMA, and FEMA to fix the house, but that's not really what it is. It allows a house worth of stuff, okay? And they said, well, what that kind of means is you're going to get a chair. I said to the guy the other day, I says, what do you mean I'm going to get a chair? Well, they don't really replace what you got in the house. You're going to get enough money to maybe buy a chair. That's how it works. If you have, of course, if you have good credit, you can get a loan. I don't fall into that. I can't, and my income's too low. I can't get no loan. Plus, I wouldn't be able to pay back a loan. And neither will all those people living there.
I know there's another organization called CAREFI.
CAREFI's been long-standing. CAREFI's been there for 8 or 9 years. What CAREFI does is they handle many people there. If they didn't work under Social Security here, when they get elderly, they don't get no Social Security. They fall between the cracks. So their income is really ridiculous. CAREFI will bring them food. CAREFI brings them to medical appointments. CAREFI puts in plumbing, because there's people there that don't have bathrooms.
Even before the hurricane?
This is before the hurricane. CAREFI helps on Vieques the poor of the poor.
What does CAREFI stand for?
Concerned Residents for Improvement.
Are there any organizations from outside the island coming to the island to help?
Well, Red Cross was there off and on. Okay, I think more off than on. They don't have like people stationed there or anything like that, because we're small. Okay, but you have a lot of different organizations. And there's many more than I could possibly even be aware of. Okay, because there's many stepping up to the plate, because it's truly a big time disaster. The people are really resilient, but And they're just going to keep going from day to day to day to day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's my honor.
And it's my honor and my pleasure to help get the word out there. And so I hope that everybody goes to the website. We're going to have for a nice long time on the screen. And so we can all do whatever we can to help you out and to help the residents of Vieques out.
To help the residents out.
Yep.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Thanks so much for joining us. Please visit the website on the screen to find out how you can make direct donations to help rebuild homes and help where it is needed most on Vieques. Shalom, salam, shanti, peace.